We heard the tech experts say someone in management should be fired. Well, even President Obama and the Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius have admitted there are problems.
I am the first to acknowledge that the website that was supposed to do this all in a seamless way has had way more glitches than I think are acceptable.
Now, I'll be the first to tell you that the website launch was rockier than we would have liked.
All right, maybe neither one of them were the first, but at least they acknowledged the problem. The question is, should someone be fired? Well, joining us tonight out front, Sean Spicer, the communications director at the Republican National Committee, and John Avlon, executive editor for the Daily Beast. Let me start with you, Sean. The president has said it many times, the buck stops with me. Obviously, he's not going to lose his job over this, but the person who was in charge of the rollout was Kathleen Sebelius as the secretary of the HHS. Should she be fired?
Yes. As Brian mentioned in the piece, they had 3 years and hundreds of millions of dollars to get this right. Just months before it was ready to go, in September of this year, they told us we were ready to go. We're going to sign up 500,000 people in the first month. When the demand started, the day after they launched, they said the problem wasn't that there was a website problem. There was just so much demand to get on the site. That was it, meaning that they actually covered it up. They knew there was a problem, and they blamed it on enthusiasm, not admitting the problem.
Or maybe they just hoped that it was enthusiasm. Maybe it wasn't a full cover-up, but...
Well, yeah. But Aaron, when you spend hundreds of millions of dollars, that's it. And if you take a look at where they are now, let's look at how they're doing. She said 500,000. There are states where you count on one hand the number of people that have done this. 0, 1, 5, 7. That's not impressive. That's not even close to 500,000. This is an absolute disaster, and there's no company in America that would allow this. They constantly refer themselves or compare themselves to an Apple rollout. But when Apple had a similar glitch, Tim Cook fired the entire team that was responsible for rolling out the mapping app. This makes this is an absolute disaster. I mean, someone's got to pay the price.
All right, John, let me ask you. By the way, I can't confirm Sean's numbers. I'll trust you on them, Sean. I can't confirm. 7 people in Alaska. I don't know what % of the population that is, but it's a heck of a lot higher than it looks. All right, but jokes aside, John Avlon, even former White House spokesman...
But not that small.
Right, yeah, I know. Robert Gibbs said someone needs to go, and let me just play it, because this is a guy who's very close to the president. Here's Robert Gibbs.
And when they get it fixed, I hope they fire some people that were in charge.
Yeah.
So where does the buck stop?
And look, there's no question this has been a rolling disaster of a rollout.
Right.
And I don't have a fancy whiteboard like Sean to, do the play-by-play. But here's the point.
Yes.
To some extent, these screw-ups do prove a point Republicans have been making over and over again, which is that government tends not to do big things well. And the tech sector would have done this better. So we can have a smart conversation about the screw-ups, about how best to fix them, and about the institutional problems. But by jumping immediately to fire Sebelius, what we're doing is essentially just parroting RNC talking points. At the height of the whole default disaster that we went through as a country during the shutdown, the RNC kept pushing this line, fire Sebelius, because they wanted to change the conversation. They wanted to distract from the disaster that was going on under their watch.
Interesting.
So that's the important politics. We're going to get real about this whole conversation.
That's an interesting point, Sean, and I mean...
Well, hold on, Aaron.
Go ahead.
I would just say that I must be doing a really, really good job because Robert Gibbs is using the talking point now. So I mean, that's a little preposterous. Yes, we believe that that's the I think that from Robert Gibbs to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, everybody's acknowledging that this has been a disaster. The question is, will anybody be held accountable for the disaster? And this isn't like a small disaster, like I ordered decaf and I meant for regular coffee. This is tens of millions of dollars that was spent over the course of 3 years, and we're all looking around calling it glitches, rocky bumps. This makes the new Coke rollout look like it was a PR success story.
Well, all right, John, let me ask you this, because, you both raise interesting points, but you raise a point, so you're jumping to fire someone before you really find out who's responsible. But here's the thing. Secretary Sebelius, we just confirmed, going to a gala up at Kennedy Center the night before, instead of testifying in Washington. And then here she is on Jon Stewart's show, which she did have time to go on. Here's Sebelius and John.
It started a little rockier than we'd like, but I think it's getting better by the day.
Because Obama, he's got this army of tech guys that send me emails when I don't even have my computer on. Like, they
come in your head.
They're talking to you. They appear behind my eyeballs, and yet all this person has to do is fill in their name, and the computer's like, "What are you doing to me?"
And then the interview ended. So she looked like she was having a good old time. She'd come to New York. She could go on Comedy Central. Okay, but seriously, all jokes aside, that isn't smart.
No. And by the way, it's totally unacceptable to my mind that she doesn't testify before Congress. That's part of her job. She should answer questions. If she's got time to go to a Kennedy Center gala, she's damn right got time to go to Congress. But again, jumping to the fire Sebelius bandwagon is about actually RNC talking points. If we want to fix it, that's one thing. Let's have a smart conversation about how to fix it. But let's be honest, the Republican Party wants a political scalp. That's the whole purpose of this line of reasoning. It's not to fix a problem or to have an interesting, important conversation about how to
John,
sort of...
here's the point, though. Talking points aside, just issue on the table. If she was a couple weeks out of this launch, when she was talking about the rollout, said, we're good to go, it's all set, I guess my point would be, if this was any other position or any other issue, we would say, you're crazy. You knew there was a problem, as we can see that they admit that they didn't beta test it. There's no question that everyone who has looked at this said that it's, Web 1.0. At what point does it not a talking point and it's just reality that they have to admit that there were serious problems, they knew about them, and they ignored them?
All right, well, all I got to say is someone's got to pay the price, but we got to know who did what wrong in order for this to not happen again. You can't just have a scalp and then declare victory. All right, thanks to both. We appreciate it. Still to come, new